Hello, 4C family. Pastor Lonnie here. I am so excited to share with you these video interviews that I've had with our partners from around the world. Every single one of them has been a tremendous blessing to me, especially now that we're in the midst of so many troubles. That's in fact the theme of our conference, good trouble. Jesus says that in this world you will have trouble, but then he says, take courage, be of good cheer, because I have overcome the world. And that's really what the theme of this conference is all about, good trouble. How God himself is an overcomer. Jesus is an overcomer in the midst of trouble, and he makes us overcomers in the midst of trouble as he builds his church and the gates of hell fail to prevail against it. And so that's what we're going to talk about as we interview our partners, and I think you're going to be tremendously blessed as I was. So let's watch these videos together. Let's jump in to some good trouble. All right. Well, Steve, it's good to talk to you, and I wanted to start off just by having you remind our congregation. We're getting new people in all the time, so some people may not know who you are and how you're serving. And so, introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about your official capacity.
Steve and Laura, and my role is to come alongside people in international ministry.
All right.
And I try to do that creatively and humbly and persistently.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's been, when we first were with 4C, we were working with people heading out internationally. And then we spent 15 years in Taiwan working with people on site. There were at that time maybe 800 to 1,500 international Christian workers in Taiwan, and crowded together.
Mm-hmm.
And then since we came back from Taiwan, I've been traveling from here and looking for ways to get together with people. And
yeah.
Some people come to us. We're in Colorado, so if you want to come, it's a good place to come. A lot of people come, but they don't necessarily come to see us. But yeah. So we are. So during this time with the COVID, we have not been traveling. So that means that we're either connecting virtually or with people that are here in the local area, either permanently or temporarily.
Okay. Yeah. So then, and coming alongside in that capacity, like I know before you were, I guess the issues range, but you just come alongside people and offer support and refreshment, counsel.
There's the two poles. One says missionaries are just like everybody else, and the other says they're really weird. And somewhere in between there, but in a sense, they're. So it's kind of, it's I grew up internationally. My parents were working internationally when I was a teenager. And so and then we did that for 15 years with our kids. So we've kind of been in this journey, and so in a sense, there's nobody that that's really just like me, but I can connect with a lot of people who are going between cultures and worlds, and that's sort of been my focus, my passion.
Yeah.
And God's allowed us to be focused on that for a long time with 4C as a partner. So we're still.
How many years has it been? It's been quite a few years now.
I'm 64 now. I think I was like 34 or something.
Okay.
I don't know. It's longer than,
Praise God, though.
I'm irrelevant now.
No, you're amazing. So, no, it's been a long time. That's great. And
never imagine getting this old.
How's it feel?
Turns out people live even longer.
No, it's great. So you guys are out in Colorado, and this has been a year of trouble, right? You know, the theme of our conference is good trouble. How God is at work even in the midst of our trouble and working for
Yeah,
His
well,
good.
there's one kind of thing, missionaries are sometimes known for whatever happens, they think it's good. And so maybe that could be one meaning. Good trouble is,
Yeah.
oh, you're in trouble. Oh, yeah, but it's really good. So, I don't know. Some people may take that different ways.
Yeah.
But I mean, trouble is trouble. I always, as a counselor, I always say,
Yeah.
hey, let's not discount the reality that, and I think one thing that I think of in this situation is just that, missionaries or international Christians, they go into places that they don't naturally fit. And so they are spending a lot of energy adjusting and adapting. And so in a sense, everybody else has had to join, everybody gets a portion of this one, right? It doesn't matter where you live, you still have had to adjust and adapt. The stuff is coming to us. And so in a way, I feel like, well, we should be comfortable with this, as comfortable as anybody. But then in another way, it's like, oh, yeah, it's a significant stress for all of us.
Yeah.
And so stress can be good if it causes us to see things in new ways, make new decisions. God uses, I'm going through Job with a bunch of men right now, and you start into Job and you're thinking like, this is awful.
Yeah.
There's no way this is good. But then, as we're going through it, we're realizing, well, yeah, but this was what it meant to be close to God. This is a guy who God talked to at length directly. That's pretty cool. This is a guy that God really cared about and approved of. So, but then you think, but wait a minute, no, I don't want to be Job. It's awful.
Right.
And yet, well, who did you want to be? One of his friends?
Right. Exactly.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, in a sense, we do want. So trouble one of the good things about trouble is it can really expose our need for God and cause us to call out to Him. I think one of the nights I prayed the most is the night before my mother died. Was the night after my boss told me that he was relieving me of my duties.
Oh my goodness.
And so, yeah, I mean, I was really deep into prayer that night.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reason is because I was in trouble.
Yeah.
So maybe, I mean, I still don't think trouble's good, but
yeah. But it's interesting because you get people who they struggle. Like, I mean, we all struggle when and are familiar with this idea that God is supposed to be in control. God is. I had my plan for 2020. I was going to do this. These were good things I was going to do for the Lord. And now so many have seen the death or sickness of a loved one, the loss of a job. Just really hard circumstances like where the first couple of weeks with your kids staying at home doing school, you're like, this is fun, but after months you're like, this is dark. This is hard. This is so, and God's allowing all this to happen, like, so
I mean, even that, you think about it, if you total up the time you have face to face while you're all awake, maybe this will be one of the more significant years in your relationship with your kids. If they're, if you're all of a sudden all together when you've normally been off. I mean, the U.S. is famous for segmenting families by age and sex and everything else.
Yeah.
Soccer players go over here and the basketball players go over there. I mean, it's all, we're always, so it's, I mean, we may look back. I mean, we're finishing up 2 weeks. My daughter and son-in-law and granddaughter have been living around the corner, but my mother-in-law really wanted to go see her other kid and grandkids in Texas. So they came over here while she kind of spends a couple weeks on her return.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's nice living around the corner, but it turns out that living in the same house has been really great.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have done it without being forced to.
Right.
But I mean, I can hear my granddaughter out there playing with her dad right now.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
So yeah, and I mean so I think that's one aspect, that there can be good in the midst of trouble.
Yes. Yeah.
And there can also be good that comes out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's probably also even good when we get in trouble.
I
know what I mean?
can see that. Uh-huh.
Like your kids, maybe.
Yep.
It's like it's good you got in trouble, because otherwise things were going to be a lot worse.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm so glad you got in trouble.
Yeah. Absolutely. Jesus talks about how, I think about the passage, I should have looked it up, where he said, I came to bring a division, and, and that's another type of, like, he comes, and because of the gospel and how people respond to it, that brings trouble, because now families are divided, friends are divided. But so that's a whole nother perspective into this whole thing.
Well, and discipline often feels like trouble.
Yeah.
But, Hebrews 12 says, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. But later on, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace.
Right.
For those who are trained by it.
Yeah. Well, so now here's a question that I have then, and I know this is like your specialty, right? You're trained counselor, psychologist. So when you come alongside of people, you come alongside of them in the midst of their trouble. And I guess there's a certain extent to which we're all called to come alongside people in the midst of their trouble. We've talked about that before. What does that look like? And, especially when a person has not fully come to terms with the trouble in the way that you do when you're looking back on a circumstance that God has brought you to. When you're right in the middle of it, you don't have that perspective. So how do you come alongside of somebody without being just kind of pat and in your answers and stuff?
Humbly, yeah.
Humbly, exactly.
By sharing our own weakness.
Yeah.
But we do. But I think a couple of things happen. One is that when we are facing trouble, sometimes we're looking for help when otherwise we wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And so trouble has a way of humbling us, and humbling is probably good. It doesn't feel good, but it probably is good.
Yeah.
But another thing is that when people are in trouble, it's sort of natural to want to stay away. It doesn't seem like fun.
So, clarify, you mean it's natural for people who see someone in trouble to just let's let them be because they don't need me, or you're saying a person who's in trouble that wants to?
Oh yeah, give you an example. Some people, some of your old folks might remember this. My mom died of ALS, and they were at Forsey, and one of her dear friends from Forsey said, "Well, I just don't feel comfortable being around her anymore." Here she is, she's unable to move. So I'm not saying she was she was suffering with a wonderful attitude or whatever. She may have been awful to be around, but she was suffering, and it was pretty clear because she couldn't move her arms and legs and so forth, And so she was a pain to relate to. As a result, some people back away. It's not as satisfying. She had been a caregiver. Many people used to relating to her as somebody who cared for them, and now she was overwhelmed and in need of care. Not as much fun. Yeah. And so I think that, or let's say we get caught up in some sin, we're going through a divorce or a broken relationship, or we're fighting, whatever's going on, one of the things is that it's like, oh, I think maybe I should go sit over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So So I think, you know, one of the things is that it provides an opportunity to show love in a way that is meaningful. Is when we choose to do that, it's sometimes not easy, but it is, people notice because it's not the normal response.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, I find, you know, like one guy, you know, his wife said, well, I wish you would come and come and visit our family. Well, then I met her husband at a conference and we're talking. He said, you know, he said, you could come and visit us. And so I went to visit, and it wasn't comfortable. I don't normally live there where they live. And so we're in another country and so forth, and some concern about crime and so forth, different things. But, and their style of living wasn't the same as mine and so forth. And they'd been under stress for quite a while, so things were a little chaotic. And, but, you know, after I'd been there a few days, he said, you know, you're really flexible. Because I guess a lot of people come in with an agenda. And that's what Joe's friends did, right? They all had, they said, you know, what you need is help, brother. And I'm here for you. I'm going to fix you.
Buy what I'm selling.
Well, you know, I mean, when people are in trouble, they generally have already tried everything they know to get fixed, and they're generally not looking for somebody to fix them. Maybe that's what they need, but they're generally not looking for it. So coming alongside someone and being just alongside rather than treating them as an object that needs fixing, that is a real gift. And the Holy Spirit indwells us. You can't always think this is great fun. You know, sometimes it's probably a bit of a pain. Well, people like us. But when we come alongside people, you know, I mean, that's where the term paraclete, the name of my org comes from, is when Jesus talks about sending the paraclete after he's gone. He says, this is going to be better. And, you know, and I remember when our men's group was looking at that passage, we're like, Jesus, you're telling me it's going to be better when you're gone and something else happens. I'm not buying it.
Exactly. How could that possibly be?
Stay? You know, that's a great idea, but why don't you just stay here with us?
Right.
You know. But he did say that would be better, and I'm sure they didn't believe it. But you know, so I mean, I'm not sure I believe it. You know, do I really think it's better to be me than to be one of the disciples? You know, walking around. Israel with Jesus,
with him,
that's a little hard to, but you know, so God is caring for us, and so as we care for one another, we become his ambassadors. And God is awfully patient with us. If he just wanted to fix us, you know, but he's gentle and kind and patient. And it's good when you're in trouble to have somebody alongside who's like that.
Oh my
goodness. We all need people alongside like that, you know. So I mean, you're talking about having teenagers, you know, when teenagers are having a hard day. It's good to have somebody alongside who's not overwhelmed by the hard day. You know, when we're all having a hard day, we tend to sit off each other. So you know, being resilient, being able to be present in the midst of trouble without being overwhelmed, without being reactive.
And we have that
mask on and not get upset about it.
You know? Exactly. I just was saying we have that empowerment by God, and he strategically placed us in the world wherever we are. And and everybody's feeling the same troubles these days because of this pandemic, because of stuff going on. We're all in the midst of the same troubles, but people are experiencing it differently. But man, it's many opportunities for us if we can.
Here's one of my little sayings. When we're under stress, we expect more out of ourselves and those close to us. So because of that higher level of expectation, you know, I need to up my game, and so do you, Pastor.
Right.
And you know, so it's like, you know, recognizing that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And so when we're able to forego, to be present for somebody else in the midst of trouble, that's a good gift.
Yeah. That's
And
amazing.
we all need people, and we need God to do that for us, but we can be the members of the body who come alongside, and and not just with each other, I've walked in. I was at a FedEx I was trying to mail a lithium battery. Don't try to do that.
Oh man, that just sounds against the law or something.
Just about. So,
Yeah.
but you were in here, so I'm standing there, trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And you're watching people walk in, and these people come in and they're already ready to fight when they walk in the door.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about this person behind the counter, and you're thinking, they didn't ask for this, but they got to do it,
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, so how do I, when I'm even with these people that you just sort of run into,
Mm-hmm.
how do I recognize that they are under stress and bring them a little peace, bring them a little encouragement. And so I didn't used to do that, Lonnie, but I'm more aware that that's an opportunity that I have in all sorts of these miscellaneous situations.
Yeah.
That I could have been doing when I wasn't, and that I could do now.
Yeah.
And so
that's an amazing ministry.
So I think just saying to the person behind the counter, instead of, okay, here's what I need.
Yeah.
Saying, wow, you deal with people of every kind who walk in here. It must be a challenge to keep. How's your day going? You doing okay?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you what I need. Here's what I'm trying to do. I don't know if you can help me with this or not.
Yeah.
Bringing humility, bringing patience, bringing awareness, sensitivity to where somebody else is at. I mean, I think those are great ways in these times in particular.
Yeah.
Whether the person's wearing a mask or they're not wearing a mask, either way, they're probably stressed about it.
Yep. Yep. So. Oh, that's good. Wow. I love talking to you. I'm like walking away. I'm like, oh, I got some ideas of some adjustments I need to make here as a parent.
Okay, so what's one thing you're going to take away from this?
Well, just what we just said. Oh my goodness, it's great to just get out of your own circumstances and be present with somebody else and realize that I've got the kingdom of God just should be bursting out of me. Jesus brings peace. I can bring some peace into this person's life too, and
it's like that.
Wow. I just love that.
Maybe for me, it's more like, well, given all the trouble I caused, maybe for once I could actually do something.
Yeah, you got to pay it back. Oh man. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate the time. And how are you doing? And you and Laura doing ministry wise? You feeling stable, feeling well supported? You've got
really, we are.
Where are you? Okay.
I mean, I think one of the things as I get older is just being more aware that everyone I'm talking to can care for me if I let them, even as I'm seeking to care for them. And so I mean, one of the things we talked about is just how this has pushed us more into relationship with those closest to us, and cut off more of the more distant relationship for many of us anyway. And so I've been just trying to accept that as a good gift from God, maybe a good trouble.
Yeah.
And not try to fight against it. But I think it's just kind of funny, I mean, what's the right attitude? I mean, it was pretty predictable that this wasn't going to be over, when it started, but everybody wanted it to be, and nobody, everything you heard from anybody was, this is, a month or 2 months. nobody said, back in March, well, 6 months from now, this is going to be a lot worse than it is now. So you might as well, get used to it, buddy.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, so I think we're still very much adjusting. The news right now is very sobering. Here in Colorado, we have the most cases now that we've had since the beginning, and and people are I mean, a lot of people in Colorado is a tourist destination, and a lot of people are, their income is impacted.
Yeah.
So I mean, in a way, we're fortunate because we don't make that much anyway, and it hasn't changed that much.
Yeah.
So it's not been, it's not really. I mean, it's just accepting. It's more just accepting the situation that is. Rather, that's the hardest part for us. I think it's just, and like Laura's ministry with International Women has just been, they had to rethink everything they were doing.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but just being content, okay, and and even the question, do you meet or do you do virtual meetings? All our groups went virtually for at least some of the time.
Yeah.
But when do you meet virtually? When do you go face to face? How much do you follow protocols of keeping safe versus, how relaxed are you? I mean, it's just a continual. I think it's just it's these adaptation stuff, that's and not knowing when it's going to end.
Yeah.
Is this the rest of our lives? I haven't heard anybody talking about that possibility. Right. But it certainly was the rest of 2020. It looks like it doesn't look like it's going to be over. And I don't know who's going to get elected president, but I don't think they're going to fix this.
Yeah.
This is scenery. This isn't policy. Nobody said let's have a pandemic.
Right. Yep,
so nobody's going to be able to say, okay, we've had enough pandemic now. Let's stop it.
Exactly. Yep. You're exactly.
But the Lord knows. He knows the end from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope God is just being present with everybody there. I know, like you say, a lot of people are facing troubles they didn't anticipate.
Yep.
Only the most pessimistic of us are not facing troubles we didn't anticipate.
Right. Right.
They knew it was going to be bad.
They knew. Maybe that gives them a little bit of joy. They were right. Good for them. Well, I tell you, I guess I will just close the time just with a short prayer. I'll pray for you and Laura and ask for God's blessing, and then we'll let you go. So, Father, I just thank you so much again for this opportunity to connect with Steve and to learn from him. And I ask that you would, it seems like the things that he talks about, the stresses that they have, the struggles that they're dealing with, and the setting that they're in right now, they're so similar to the things that we're dealing with on this side over here. And so I pray that, in as much as we're all walking through this pandemic together, that we would be energized and mobilized to pray for each other, that when one of us is having a bad day, that somebody else is having a good day and lifting that one up. I just pray that as Steve and Laura make their life about coming alongside others as they serve you and learn of you and love you, I pray that you would also provide others to come alongside them as they need it. So bless their family, bless all of their work. I pray that you would, in the midst of our trouble, Lord, that we've talked about, show us who you are and how amazing you are, and give us a renewed sense of our neediness and our dependence upon you. And so we thank you so much for what you're going to do. We pray that you would provide for them and make that we would be well until we meet again. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.